Hi, welcome to the DRH show, where I have wide-ranging conversations with fascinating people. We talk about all things psychology, mental health, and wellness. Today, I'm joined by the President and CEO of Cymcorp International, Robert Gauthier. Thanks for joining me.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, this is going to be interesting.
Robert, it's lovely to have you here. So if you could just share to us your background, your trajectory in life, and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Oh my God, you're. I've got an interesting background because I'm not from the medical field, or I got into research because some 20 years ago, I got a statistic that 15 million children were orphan of AIDS in Africa. And at that time, I used to own supermarkets, and I decided I was going to go and find a natural solution to the problem. After 7 years of research, 47 years of empirical study, we have something which is patented, clinically proven to work at 98.9% efficacy. And that led me to go into production of natural supplements. But prior to all of this, I was in the food industry. I actually owned supermarkets. And I guess the twist of fate, just a horrific statistic of 15 million children. My wife and I, we said it's impossible in this day and age that there is no solution. These children are going to live without the care, the love, the attention, and the guidance of their parents. And I found a solution, which is patented and clinically proven. But that's basically, if I do a long story short, is base where we wanted to contribute for others in need. That's basically the short version.
And as you've said, Robert, your background has taken twists and turns, and you eventually ended up launching Cymcorp Corporation. So if you could just tell us what's the core mission of Cymcorp?
Cymcorp is there to offer a true quality of life to the end user. And we will define true quality of life because, we're not here to, like big pharma, they're in the disease management business. You understand? We define health as, not the mere absence of disease, but total spiritual, emotional, physical, and yes, financial well-being. Because if you don't have any money in this day and age and you're stressed, stress is 80% of disease. So basically, you are going to be prone to catching or to attracting or to being impacted by certain conditions. So we really look at taking care of a patient, a person holistically, meaning not attacking a certain condition. What I find very regretful nowadays is that doctors will treat diseases. They're disease managers. You go and see a naturopath, you say, well, I got a headache, what do you have for me? And people are going to prescribe certain things. But the way we look at it, we ask certain questions. We will ask a patient or a customer, are you happy? Because their environment is going to be 90% of the condition. Doctors will ask you, do you have a history of cancer in your family? It's only 60, according to science, it's only 16% of disease. 90% is environmental. So we devised a program, which is called a therapy, or call it, the name is Viprox, to treat people holistically. So what do? We answer the three elements necessary to sustain life: the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, and the food that you eat. If you use these components at peak performance, which is what we're going to give you, then inevitably we can, because your body has the intrinsic ability and desire to be disease-free if you give it the right substrates, the right building blocks or fuel, as we would have it. So our mission in life is actually to give people a true quality of life by rebalancing their whole organism and giving them the fighting chance in this day and age. That would be the short answer.
Now, Robert, if you could just step back a bit, because as what you've alluded to, you're clearly in the sector of health and wellness. But for the benefit of the general public, if you could just explain to us in layman's term, what is host immune system and what diseases are we talking about? Because I understand this is clearly forms a big component of what you're working in. So what's a host immune system?
Okay, so you're talking about our patents. Our patents were done and they were worded, the therapy for the treatment, we gotta be, it's a non-toxic, non-invasive approach to treating a host immune system and host immune system related diseases. Now, to go back in time, originally was done for the AIDS pandemic. If you recall back then, 25 years ago, just in Africa alone, 27,000 people per day were dying of AIDS. It was like the big scare. So their immune system was invaded by a host, a virus called the AIDS virus. Nowadays, we went through, the flu pandemic. We have the avian flu. We had H1N1, SARS, and now we got COVID-19. So basically, what we have is a therapy for treating your immune system that's been invaded not only by a virus, it could be a parasite, a bacteria, a mold, or even pharmaceutical or chemical products that in turn will damage your immune system. Nobody dies of AIDS, by the way. People die of opportunistic diseases because they have a compromised immune system. So if we bring this to this day and age, let's forget about the word AIDS, because people say, I don't have AIDS. Am I going to continue on this podcast? AIDS has everything to do with mental health, and I'll define it. Because we don't address the disease itself, what we do is we address the person. If we rebalance the person, then the person regains its intrinsic ability and desire to be disease-free, and then they can evict the condition or be in a better state of being. So that's basically what our patents are about. The clinical study was done on AIDS, because that's what it was at the time. But the hard part here, Dennis, is for people to understand and to make a paradigm shift from, hey, I will attack a condition, to I will empower the whole organism to be at peak performance. So that's what we do. So a host immune system is simply stated an immune system that's been invaded by a certain intruders, such as H1N1, AIDS, or the avian flu, or whatever it might be, or a parasite or a mold. And then we get results at 98.9% efficacy. That's what we do, because we treat the patient, we treat the person, we do not treat the disease. We're not here to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. It would be illegal for us to do so. Simply stated, our company and our philosophy, we are in the cellular health business. The cells take care of the tissue takes care of the organ, and the organ's dysfunctionality. That's what it's about.
Now, Robert, of course, if we talk about wellness, most of the time we think about holistic wellness. And when we think about holistic wellness, we can't really remove the aspect of mental health. And I understand also, as the CEO of Cymcorp, mental health is also of interest to you. And why is that?
Okay, can I just add something before I answer that question? Because I want to put people in proper context. And that's important, because see, we go from talking about AIDS, and now we're going to be talking about mental health. People are saying there's a disconnect, and they need to understand something. First, I would like to ask 3 questions to the audience, and I know you can't answer me, but play along with me. I'm not talking to you, Dennis. I'm talking to the listener. The very first premise for what we do is: would you all agree that we're made up of energy and cells? And then that's scientific. People, whether you agree or not, and I hope you agree, so you can keep on going and enjoy what we're doing, Dennis and I, today. You are made up about 150 trillion cells. From the tip of your toes to the top of your head, you are a cellular structure. And these cells have energy. Now, in this case, we're talking about mental health. You can have positive energy or you can have negative energy. Negative energy would be a cancerous cell. Negative energy. Somebody depressed. Negative energy. Positive energy will bring positive results. So we're all a structure of intracellular, 150 to 150 trillion cells. That's what we are. The second premise, and we discussed it, but let's go. Would you agree that if we gave your body, your cellular structure, the right substrates, the right building blocks, that you can regain a state of balance and of health? And that is actually also documented, because if we go back in time, I know you're not from our culture here, but indigenous people back then would take an herb, a spice, or something, put it in water, you would drink, and everybody thinks, hey, that's the plant that made them better. No, the plant triggered the healing process. The body is the only organism that can heal. The others are just tools. So basically, if you give your body the right tools, in this case, we're discussing, then your body has intrinsic ability to regain a state of health. And we will get to the mental health into this. Then the last one is a doozer, especially for the professionals on the line. But diseases don't exist according to us. And let me define, because I know some of you are thinking, they're doctor. I've been treating patients for the past 30, 40 years, and this guy tells me that diseases don't exist. And then some people will say, well, I have diabetes, I have, mental health issues, or I have, I've had cancer, and he says disease. No, take a look at it. And these are words given by an establishment called, a scientific establishment, or, medical establishment. But if you look at, it's just cellular dysfunctions. If we take care of intracellular health, the cells take care of the tissue takes care of the organ and its dysfunctionality, then we don't have to give it a name. And that's important for your question, okay? Why is mental health so important to me? Well, you're hitting home, and we're going to get very personal, Dennis, but 3 of my cousins died fighting the battle. They had mental issues. One of them jumped off a bridge. One of them put a bullet in the head, and the other one was, medication, excess in taking medication. So, of course, it touches me personally. But I will talk about myself. We're here to open up our game and discuss. I've been battling depression for most of my life. See, my father was a pharmacist. Every time we had a certain whatever, he popped a pill. Not knowing, in his wisdom, he did not know that my intestinal flora was destroyed. My vitamin deficient, I was vitamin deficient. And most of my younger life, I had to fight to get out of bed. How I overcame this condition was by hard work and exercise. But it was a grind. And a life does not have to be a grind, Dennis. Life is supposed to be smooth, easy going. We're supposed to have fun. But when you are in a state of depression, stressed, burnt out, you're not having fun. But then there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. My wife, after many, many years of seeing me like this, she's watching a TV show. And then there's this thing about postnatal depression for women who had children, and then they get depressed. And then they say, well, we use vitamin B6 and we feel better. So my wife tells me about it. Hey, when you're in that state, you'll try anything. So I tried B6 and my God, I'm feeling like $1 million. So then I go and see a naturopath. His name was Ken. And at the time, and Ken decided to take a full antioxidant and vitamin assay, send it to a laboratory called SpectraCell at the time. I come back, and the first thing he says when I walk into his office, he says, have you ever tried to commit suicide? I said, never. But if I'm here, it's because, I'm fighting depression and all this. Well, he says, your vitamins you don't have any vitamin 6. You don't have any B12. You're basically deficient. And most patients I see in that condition have tried to commit suicide. Well, I haven't tried, but you know what? I'm here to get better. So what we did is we gave me shots of for months and months, and lo and behold, I feel better. So I have a personal vested interest in actually discussing this, because there's another thing that really gets to me, Dennis, is the social aspect of this mental condition. See, Dennis, if you say to someone in your family, oh, I've been diagnosed with cancer or some major disease, they're all going to say, oh, poor Dennis, poor Robert, what can we do to help you out? But when it comes to mental condition, people feel uncomfortable. And then at first they shy away from you. Instead of helping you out, they don't know what to do. Then if it persists, if you say, well, I've got a burnout, I got fibromyalgia, I can't go to work, or I'm depressed, then they're going to start having labels for you. You're a loser. You know, you're not made for this society. And obviously you are fighting certain conditions, but they don't understand. And then they give you this stigmatism. And then for those of you listening today, if you don't agree with me, I'll give you one name, Robin Williams. Robin Williams is the actor. Remember, the comedian. For 30 years, he made us laugh. We had a wild time with this guy. We thought he's got it made. He's multimillionaire. He's got a nice family. He's got kids. The whole works. What did he do? He committed suicide. So it's misunderstood. It was a silent. You got fibromyalgia for women. They're depressed. They're burnt out. They're at the end. You know, when they say you're burning the candle from both ends, there's 10 million women in North America who are fighting silently and they have no solution. So, Dennis, when you ask me a question like this, I will tell you right now, mental health is mostly an environmental condition and it hits home for me. And today, what I would like to do with your audience is to give the chance to the listener to have very simple things they can do to be able to find, you know, a true quality of life. That's basically it. So it hits home for me. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Now, Robert, thank you for sharing those personal aspects why you have a vested interest when it comes to mental health. But since we're already in this, line of topic, we're talking about mental health. I'm sure you would pretty much agree with me that one of the most common mental health issues that a lot of people are struggling with today is depression. So you were alluding to the fact earlier that you're here to offer some advice when it comes to mental health. So coming from your standpoint, coming from your experience, do you have any suggestions? Do you have any advice on how we can overcome depression?
Yep, I do. Of course, if I'm here, I do. Here's what it is, Dennis. The first thing I'm going to say is I'll make an analogy. My wife bought a front end washer dryer last Christmas, beautiful technological stuff and all this, and all of a sudden it starts leaking. One of them starts leaking. I live in the country. Now, in the country, what we do is we fix things ourselves. Okay. And but I took a decision. I mean, these things are new. We're going to call an appliance repairman. In my head, it was just a seal around, the door that was leaking. That was it. Within 15 minutes, the guy comes up with a piece this big and he says, oh, your dispenser for soap was actually clogged up and broken. And that's why, and I'll change the piece and you're going to be okay. So the point I'm making is when you go and see a specialist, he will find and pinpoint the problem much faster than if you try to do it yourself. It's funny how when your car breaks, you go and see a mechanic. In business, people go and see, their lawyers for a certain thing, their accountant. That's normal. We go and ask for help. But when it comes to mental health, people think that they have to do it alone. So my very first advice would be go and see a specialist. Don't try alone. Now, I want to address, Dennis, the teenagers today. Teenagers, they go to school and they're faced, we live in interesting times. We must say these are troubled, but still interesting times. Now, let me make a comparison between when I was a kid and, because I'm much older than you and some of the audience. And when we were kids, we had like 3 decisions to make in one day. First one, because we're from Canada, are we going to play hockey today? The second decision, what time do we have to come home? And then the third is, what is mom going to make for us to eat tonight? That's basically, I'm making it nice and simple. Do you know, Dennis, how many, and this is a question I'd like you to answer if you could, and if you're not, that's quite all right. But do you know how many decisions a child needs to take on a daily basis today?
Well, I would suspect it's about 100.
Okay, here's what it is.
Am I close enough?
Oh, you're closer than when I was a kid. But because of this technology, they take between 20 to 50,000 decisions per day.
Oh God, it's that's really a lot.
Yeah. Now you need to know something. Mankind took 300 years to go from speaking to writing. Okay, 300 years. And now for the past 60 years, we have MP3s, PS3s, we had iPods, iPads, iPhones, I this and I that. And the children are taking between 20 to 50,000 decisions per day. It is too much for their brain. It is actually very detrimental for their well-being, and they can't handle it. And we're wondering why they have so much mental stress and issues. Well, it's a fast pace, and we're living in these inevitably today troubled times. When I was a kid, it was normal to say the truth. Today, if you don't lie about certain things, they'll say that you're stupid. You get away with things by lying. So they're being bombarded with different values, information overload, and guess what? It takes a toll on their physical well-being. So I want to know, I want to address these children and say, look, you're not alone. Just like I just answered for the parents, but in your case, you're in school, you have black thoughts, bad thoughts. Go and see your counselor. Tell them, be honest, tell them the truth. I have this thought, or I'm unhappy, or I'm hurt, and but don't do it alone. Basically, go and see a specialist, and that's very important, because if you go and see a specialist, it's funny how people, you get divorced. Somebody gets divorced, and you talk to the neighbor, and the neighbor says, yeah, I knew 15 years ago that you were in trouble. It's easier for someone outside of the problem to fix what's inside the problem. Albert Einstein says the mind that created the problem cannot be the mind that will resolve the problem. Why do you try alone? Kids, go and see a specialist. You have access. If you don't, then you can go. There are many things that you can do, but basically, my story to you goes back a long time ago. When I was at your age, we would touch a girl when we went out. We would hold hands. Now you guys have got this machine here, and you're actually trying to get to know someone on this little machine, or on a computer. You've got cell phones. Go in the bar. Have a look in the bar. When we went to bars, we talked to people. Now they are. Sorry, I touched the wrong button here. You go to a bar, and then you've got they're going like this. Nobody's talking to each other. And then if you look, my wife and I went to a restaurant, a year ago or something. I don't remember exactly. But then there's this guy. He's with this beautiful woman. I believe it was his wife, and he's just playing around, and she's eating supper, and she's talking, but he's not responding. At one point, he just left, never came back. She wanted. We are social beings. You are a social being. So if this is not working right, go and see a specialist. Especially in your school, it is free. All right. So that would be, But one thing, Nike said it best: just do it. Don't listen to me and say, this guy talk about emotions and whatever. Yes, I get emotional when it comes to mental health, because I see what's going around. I care for you children. I care for people who are hurting. And then I know that trying to do it alone and staying alone will not do it. So my answer, Dennis, is very simple. How do you overcome depression? First, go and see a specialist. That would be my first answer to you.
Well, as you've rightly alluded to, Robert, it's clearly important that when you're struggling with mental health issues, you go and seek the help of a mental health professional. But you've also mentioned that we're living in difficult times, and definitely we're living in difficult times. So would you say there are also simple measures or habits someone can take to overcome depression? Talking about habits, not just, speaking with a mental health professional.
Yes, definitely, because it doesn't have to be, dementia or I don't know, schizophrenia. Let's just talk about depression, mild depression, burnout, stressed, stuff like even fibromyalgia. What I say to people: don't stay alone. Being alone. We the expression says, "Idle hands are devil's workshop." When you're alone, you're in his hands, and he's gonna work and give you dark thoughts. So the things that worked for me were physical activity. And if you don't have access to go to a gym, and when I talk physical activity, let me define this, because going on this is not a physical activity. I'll tell you one thing. I have a granddaughter. She's 16 years old, and we play these games where you're trying to hold the other person's thumbs down. And I thought I was pretty strong, but then she can hold my thumbs down because her thumbs are going. So that's not real physical activity. That's just working your thumbs. That's being Woody Woodpecker. I'm talking about going outside in nature, going for a walk. That's a physical activity, but it keeps your brain busy because you're looking around. You're not stuck in a house. Many, many years ago, my wife and I, we used to live in the suburbs of Montreal. And rain or shine, sleet or snow, 50 degrees or minus 40 degrees, we would go. 50 is a bit exaggeration, but 30 degrees or minus 40 degrees, we would go for a walk at a certain time every morning. But then I went on business trips, came back 3 weeks later, and out comes this lady from a building, and she's running towards us, and she's crying, and she's happy, and she says, "I'm depressed, but every morning I wait for you guys to walk hand in hand. And then I didn't see you for 3 weeks. I thought you were dead." Well, I said, "No, I went on a business trip." She just turned around, went back to her house. To this day, Dennis, I feel so bad that we didn't ask her right on the spot to join us to walk. We went back in front of that building, but which one of the houses or apartment did she live in? And we never got in touch with her. But can you imagine that just a small gesture, like going for a walk for us, change the life of somebody else that was depressed? So my answer would be simple as just get active. If you can't get active this way, find a hobby. I mean, a hobby is something that you like to do that will keep your brain busy, but in a positive environment. My wife had been asking me, Dennis, for many, many years to change the doors in the front entrance. Then, like I said, I could have paid someone, but then I decided I'm going to start the hobby woodworking. I don't know the first thing about woodworking, but man, it sounds like it's going to be fun. So I want to show something to the audience. This is a piece of wood. Doesn't look like much. It was a tree not so long ago. And then I turned it into this plank. It smells. It has unbelievable grain. It's hard. It's heavy. It has life of its own, and it keeps me busy. And I did this just because my wife asked me to do something for her, and now it's a hobby. I'm working wood. I'm not saying I'm good. I'm just saying that I'm doing it. And this, in a few weeks from now, will end up being a door. Isn't that just unbelievable to keep your mind busy? So if that's not accessible to you, community service, Dennis. There's nothing wrong with going and help somebody else. You can call your pastor, your rabbi, your priest, and you say, "Can I help in the community?" And definitely they're going to find something for you. You can find a soup kitchen. That's something that you can do. You might meet in these venues someone that's going to have the wisdom to take you out of your rut, out of your dark thinking, into a positive light. Or you might even discover that some people are in worse condition than you are, and that your life isn't bad at all. And then you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so basically, that's something. There's so many things you can. I know what you can do. You can do. Many years ago, my wife and I, we did zoo therapy with our dogs. Zoo therapy is something that's unbelievable. Is you go to hospitals, you go to to retirement homes with your pet, and then you walk around and let the pet choose the person that they feel comfortable, and these people, they start having fun with the pet. I have seen people who were on their deathbeds. They were waiting for our dogs to come, and they did not die. In the whole hospital that we did this, Dennis, at one point, there were no more cookies because the elderlies were keeping their cookies to give to our dog on Friday afternoon because they were waiting for us to get there. We have seen a paralyzed woman, catatonic woman, And the nurse says, why don't we ask Mary to walk the dog? And Mary, that was catatonic, or I don't know exactly how to use the word, but basically like in a vegetable state, got out of her wheelchair, started walking. So you can, if you have a pet, just go to your retirement home. A lot of these people are alone. They need companionship. And then you're going to be the one helping them out. You're going to be busy. So that's another thing. But you can join a yoga class. My daughter is an executive in a big company. And many years ago, she decided she's going to be a yoga teacher. And today, every Sunday, she gives yoga classes over the internet. It doesn't have to be physical, but at least you're doing something. And yoga is relaxing. Meditation is relaxing. I do 2 hours of meditation per day. I started this 3 years ago. I'm not saying I'm good at it. I'm just saying I'm doing it. Just do it. Okay? So you can do something just as simple as a warm bath. Go and watch a movie. But one thing that you should not do is stick around with the naysayers. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, yeah, but we have family members, my aunt, my brother, my sister. Oh, they're always negative when I go and I get depressed, but I got to listen to them. No, you don't. You can love them, but you got to stay away from them. A lot of people tell me, well, Robert, how do I do this? It's simple. When somebody's negative and it's in a meeting or it's in a family gathering, as soon as they get close to you, you say, oh, I'm sorry, I got to go to the washroom. No, you don't need to go to the washroom. You walk towards the washroom and then you walk away. If it's on the phone, then the person is starting with the negativity that you can't handle at this stage in your life. You will probably later on, you might not even want to be with them thereafter, because when you get happy, you don't want to go back to where you were. So what you do is simple. I use this one all the time. I'm sorry, but the children are near the stove, and you hang up the phone. Now, people say, well, Robert doesn't have any children anymore. They get the message. The idea is do not stay with people who are negative. Okay? Now, last but not least, these are simple, Dennis, but don't watch the news. Okay? For 30 years of my life, I didn't watch the news because it's all negative. Then we got COVID-19 and we all these restrictions, and I started listening to the news, and I told my wife, this is depressing. So don't watch the news. There's a joke on the internet. These Amish people, they meet someone on the street. Amish are the ones with the black hat. They don't have any television, no radio, no cell phones, no cars. They basically live off the land. And they meet somebody else, and the person has got the mask on, and they're all nervous and they're afraid. And they say, are you not afraid? There's COVID-19 and they're going on. And the Amish says, no, we don't watch the news. Now, this is a joke going, but I'll tell you what. If you go to Kenya, there are 2 doctors, the ones who take decisions on what goes into the country. And they were asked, do you have a pandemic? And he says, no, we don't watch TV. So for mental health, keep away from all that is negative. You don't need it. You don't want it. You keep away from it. So these are little tricks, Dennis, but they're things that if you apply, and like I said, as Nike says best, just do it. Choose one of the ones that I just told you, and then go with it. And then you're going to see unbelievable results.
Well, Robert, thank you for sharing those tips. Clearly, there are so many things, there's so many measures that we can implement to overcome depression. But when it comes to products or medications, have you got any suggestions on how we can overcome depression or how we can manage depression?
Definitely. The first thing I would say, there are pharmaceutical products, Dennis, and we all know there are specialists, and obviously at a certain stage in your mental condition, you might need to go and see these people. So I say yes, but we are of a different philosophy, okay? And I would rather that we discuss lifestyle changes and natural approach to finding solutions for people who are fighting depression, burnout, stress, and even fibromyalgia. So basically, our approach is not to go pharmaceutical. And I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm saying this is something that we don't, advocate openly because we have other solutions. So I would say take a look. The first thing as at the GSH, glutathione. GSH as in good, solid health. That's just for you to remember, because an acronym is hard to you remember. Glutathione is a way too big of a word, but GSH as in good. You want to feel good, solidly, forever, health. GSH. And then you go on PubMed, Medline. These are medical publication. And then you punch in depression, you punch in, and obviously the word GSH, and you're going to have 153,000 medical articles to substantiate the use of GSH for you to regain certain abilities that you lost because you are depressed. And, I will give an example, Dennis, which is in North America. I don't know where your podcast is going, but there are 10 million women suffering of fibromyalgia in North America, silently depressed to a point where they're in their beds. And these women listening, I have a story for you. See, women these women who have fibromyalgia, it started 40 years ago. It didn't start overnight. 40 years ago, women, they burned their bras. They say, we're going to go on the marketplace and we're going to be like men. And they had education, they had, diplomas, and they went in and they got paid half of what men got paid. Now, these same women are homemakers. So then they come home after 8 hours, 10 hours of hard work at half the salary. So they build up resentment. They go home and the children, need to be washed. So then they take care of the children. Then they have to make the supper. So they make the supper. After the supper, they have to do the dishes. After the dishes, they have to do the homework with the children. After the homework, they have to put them to bed. In the meantime, and I'm going to be talking, I'm being very graphic, but women will relate to this because when I give conferences, a lot of women are going like this, okay? In the meantime, their husbands are sitting in the rocking chair or in the sofa watching, his favorite sport. And he said, hey, hon, when you get a chance, could you give me a beer? And then resentment sets in. And that resentment creates what we call oxidative stressors within the system, which actually attacks your cells. But then that woman keeps on going for years and years till she hits a mild, she's tired. She goes and sees the doctor. The doctor said, that's all in your head. We'll give you antidepressant. And it goes on. And then it turns into a full-fledged burnout. She's not functional at home. She's not functional at work. She is hurting inside, but she can't express it because her husband lost his job and she's the only moneymaker in the family. So then the doctor says, take 2 weeks off. The lady takes 2 weeks off. She thinks she's going to be okay. I feel better. I feel like crying every once in a while because before she was crying just about every day, but nobody was allowed to know because she has to be tough. Next thing you know, she really burns out and it goes in full-fledged fibromyalgia. The cells in her body are so toxic from oxidation that now you can't even touch her. Now we took a lady that had been off of work for 8 years in bed. The last 3 years of her life before she met us, she couldn't even pass the vacuum cleaner. Her daughter was taking care of her. We put her on our product called GSH Complex. And inevitably, that was on a Saturday. Sunday, she got up. Monday, she started cleaning the house. 3 months later, she was, back at work and she's fully functional. So there are, to my regret, certain conditions that are very difficult to take care of, but there are also natural solutions that can give you a physical fighting chance. You can go to your health food store. My wife takes this product called Stress Relief. I don't know what's in it. I didn't read it, but it's natural. And then it gives your body certain elements necessary to help physically overcome the mental condition. Is not only a state of being, it is also a physical state of being, okay? You can get active. Go and outside, smell the air. Do this? Uh, there's one thing, Dennis, that I want to tell people. Okay, and this is very important. When you take the plane, and this is very important for those who are dysfunctional, but they're in charge of their own family, or they got to go to work. You take the plane, and they say if there is depressurization, even if you're with your child, put the mask on your face first, and then take care of your child. Why would they do that? Because the first instinct would be to take care of the child. But if you pass out because you run out of oxygen, you can't take care of your child. So yes, there are natural ways, there are pharmaceutical ways, but you got to take care of yourself, because if you don't, then how can you take care of others? Okay. So we're just giving you nice little lifestyle changes, but there are natural products, especially look into GSH, as in good, solid health. It is an intracellular builder. It has other properties. We're not here to talk about products. We're here to talk about how for you to get better with lifestyle changes, and inevitably with some natural products. And if you so choose to go that route, even pharmaceutical way, but that a professional will be able to give you what is needed according to their knowledge and to their expertise as to diagnose your condition. But remember one thing, we are not here to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. We're not in that field. We go at the root cause of any dysfunction is your cellular health. And if you understand that, then you can understand that what we have to offer here today as advice has merit, because I don't need to know to what extent you are feeling bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Robert, you said that it's not really more about medication, but are there any tools that you can suggest to promote positive mental health in these difficult times?
Well, your posture is one of them. Okay. And this might sound so trivial to people, but let me tell you a story. Okay. A few years ago, I get a phone call. Well, actually, it was passed by my wife passed me. Says somebody wants to talk to you. And then the lady on the other line comes up and says, "Are you the guy with the miracle product?" I say, "Sorry, what are you talking about? I don't have a miracle product. I have a line of product, but I don't have an." "Oh, yes, 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 you do." I say, "What are you talking about?" Well, I said, "See, my brother had prostate cancer, and his oncologist told him to go and get your GSH complex. And he took it, and then after a few months, the doctor went look at it, and he was feeling okay. So then I said, okay, yeah, so that's fine." But he said, no, 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 no. We went on your website and we started looking at all these testimonials. And my mother, she's 87 years old. She's been depressed for years. She's in her chair. She doesn't talk to anybody. She all hunched over. And we decided to give her your product. Now I'm calling you because yesterday she got out of her chair. She started walking around the house. Her shoulders were back, and she was singing. And she was like, we've never seen her before. So she says, we call your product a miracle product. I say, okay, so what can I do for you? And she goes and gives me a whole line of conditions she has, and she says, can you help me out? And then the answer was, well, we're in the cellular health business. We do not address any disease per se, but of course we can help you out. But the point is that this lady got out of her chair where she was like this, and she was dysfunctional, and she was depressed, and she started walking because, hell, you can see how beautiful it is around you. Many years ago, I was in Angola, Africa, and the pastor that invited me had a niece that was dying, 21 years old, beautiful young woman, but she's dying, and say, can you help her out? And obviously, we put her on a regiment and went to see her at her home, and she's in a cinder block building, cement, in the basement, on a blanket, lying on the floor. So I said, what are you guys doing? Get her out of here. She says she can't walk. Well, she weighs 90 pounds, not even. Pick her from under the arms, take her outside for her to see the sun, to smell the air, and get the fresh air. So the point I'm making is when you are depressed, when you are tired, when you are mentally challenged because of this environment that we live in, did you notice that people start going like this to the point where they're hunched over? You cannot be negative if you look at the sky. If you bring your chest up, then when you're depressed, you've got shallow breathing, and shallow breathing brings oxidation because it's not a full breathing. The biochemical reaction is not happening the way it should be, and you're damaging your cellular structure. But if you're looking at the possibility, there's an expression that says you're so close to the tree you can't see the forest. Well, when you're looking down on the ground, you cannot see the possibilities. So posture is very important. um, I have grandchildren, I have children, and there's one thing that I tell them when they tell me I can't do this, it's impossible. I say, you do 5 push-ups. The word can't does not exist. So for those of you who are thinking, well, I can't get out of my home. If you were in my home, you'd have to do push-ups. Get out, change your posture, take a good look outside, smell the air, and then go and hug a tree. I mean, a lot of people remember, maybe 20 years ago they had tree huggers. There's energy, but energy also comes in your posture. So my answer to you, Dennis, is change your posture. You're going to basically change the way you are. Now, many years ago, I went to it was called Crystal Cathedral at the time. The pastor, his name was Dr. Schuler. I was invited, and he had 22 million listeners every Sunday. That's a lot of people. 22 million children, not children, people were watching his ministry. And Dr. Schuler had something that was unbelievable to help people. He would say, pray, count to 10, and take action. Now, what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you what, I'm doing it. I do it. It's if you're unhappy, if you have a problem, count to 10 is not just a count to 10. You take a piece of paper, okay, and then you write down whatever problems you have at the top, and then you write 10 different ways that you can alleviate your problem. If it's loss of job, if it's loss of money, if it's you're depressed, if your husband, your wife left you, whatever making you unhappy, put it down on a piece of paper and find 10 different ways that you can change your state of being, and then take action. Nike said it best. They didn't sell only running shoes. The whole world started doing exercise because they said the word just do it. So my answer to you is yes, there are posture, but then you got to give yourself the tools to be able to go into action. And action speaks louder than words. So that would be my answer.
Absolutely. Now, Robert, aside from managing Cymcorp, aside from being the president and CEO of Cymcorp, I understand you also have a podcast. How long has it been around, and can you tell us more about your podcast?
The podcast has only been around for 6 months, I believe. Yeah, we're on the 24th episode. We're here to try to give both sides of the medal as much as possible in any condition that people want. Or see, what we go is with themes. We have like this, why we're talking to you is that now is actually mental health month for the whole world. Well, I live in Canada, and in Canada, October, November is suicide month. People don't know this, but we go in change of temperature. We go from plus 30, nice and sunny, the trees full of leaves, to now no more leaves, -2, -3, raining every day. And then we know winter's coming. And when winter comes, that means we're going to hit -30. And a lot of people just can't handle it, and they commit suicide. So we have themes on a monthly basis, and we, on a regular basis, which is every week, we do a podcast. We invite people, or we're being invited as we are now, and we give nice, simple solutions to everyday problems depending on the theme of the month. And the podcast is called goodsolidhealth.com. If you go on YouTube. And why I'm going to repeat myself is because good solid health is easy to remember. GSH is hard. People will go GHS because of the alphabet. So I tell people it's simple. It's as good, as solid as your health and what you want it to be. So it's called goodsolidhealth.com. It's a podcast on YouTube. Now we do have alternatives that are on, I believe it's called Infinity, or I don't remember exactly. It doesn't matter, because some of the topics that we touch, YouTube is for some reason very particular. So when it gets to be too juicy for YouTube, then we just put a link for people to go and see it on Odyssey. That's the one I was looking for. Odyssey, which are basically more open as a platform to be able to say what you think. By the way, everything we say, Dennis, is documented. We don't just talk out of the top of our head. We have our own opinion, but we document ourselves before we have our podcast. So that would be Good Solid Health Podcast on YouTube.
Well, what I'll do, Robert, is I'll pop in the link to the description notes. So for anyone who's interested to find out more about your podcast and also to learn more about GSH, Good Solid Health, as you put it earlier, they can learn more about it. Now, you gave us some interesting advice and some interesting tips. And as you have rightly suspected earlier, a lot of the people who are watching this are actually young people. They're actually based in the UK. I'm based in the UK. Do you have any advice for teenagers or for anyone who are experiencing mental health issues?
Yes. I've pondered, and this is going to get also personal, Dennis, but people have to remember something. Tough times never last, tough people do. And this one, I did not come with it myself, is Dr. Schuler wrote a book on how to help people who are going through tough times. And when he wrote the book, it was for people in Flint, Michigan, who had lost their jobs, and it's a very devastating state in the United States where there's no jobs. And I took that as being my premise for what I want to say today. Okay, I want to say to people, the young people listening, we're going through tough, interesting but tough times, but mankind is resilient, and you are part of mankind. I know you're thinking you're all alone. I'm just that one person, but you got to understand, just like the ripple in a pond, when you throw a rock, that ripple goes right through the whole pond. You're affecting that whole pond. You are part of mankind, and we care for you. And you got to know this. I know that a lot of you on the line tonight don't know me, and you say, how can you care for me? I care for you because I'm an older person, and we've been through tough times ourselves. And, we can relate. It's called wisdom if you use it correctly, and it comes with gray hair, but we can relate to what you're going through. But, what I would say to you, don't stay alone. Do it with somebody else. When you got these thoughts, just go. And I'll tell you about the dark side. Many years ago, I got divorced. I walk into my house, and the house is empty, and there's a fridge left in there. My son's gone. My ex-wife is gone, and I thought it was the end of the world. I opened the fridge. The fridge is smelling awful because it's broken down. So then I go downstairs because I was heating my home. We live where outside it's very cold in winter, and I was heating with a fireplace. And I sit in the chair, that one chair that was left, and I go right through the chair because it broke. And the door on the fireplace, I opened it up and it falls. And I thought, this is it. This is the end of the world. I'm not going to get through this. Next day, I have to go to work. I get in my car, it won't start. It's broken. And I got no money to fix it. And then at that point, I thought I would never recuperate from that. And today, I got a new wife. I got, I've been through a few businesses, but point in case is made it back up. So you're going to be resilient. Don't give up. Never give up. You can have what they call a brownout, not a burnout, meaning bad time in your life, but they never last. And to make this point, I will get even more personal. Last year at Christmas, one of my grandchildren gave me the best gift I've ever had. And it's here. It's here. It's, she wrote to me, when you're feeling happy, read this one. When you're feeling a certain way, and I have these quotes that I get from her that I read, and I will get personal, and I will read it for the benefit of everybody on the line. And this one is called Open When You're Sad and Upset. So sad and upset or depressed could be the same thing. And he goes like this. Hi, Grandpa. I'm sorry you're feeling sad. Hopefully this letter can make you feel a little better. I don't know why you're upset, or it's hard for me to try to comfort you. However, from my personal experience, I think it's sometimes better to show your support from a distance. Allow me to explain. In my case, sorry, I like being sad alone. Okay? I somehow find it therapeutic having a good cry or being sad without the pressure of having to explain why you're upset. So you see, there's a different perspective, because sometimes we're sad and we don't even know why. And that's okay. All this being said, if you want to talk it over, call me. Wow, isn't that fantastic? When I say don't stay alone. All right. Anyways, here are some saying that might make you happier. Well, first off, since you're pretty wise, thank you, grandchild, you know that the good in the world would be meaningless without the bad. Wow. 16 years old. She wrote this. She was 14 and a half years old. So embrace your sorrow rather than push it away. And sadness can be comforting at times. You're probably thinking that I've lost my mind, but I'm serious. But there's a comfort in knowing that at least you can feel, okay? And it all go away, and you'll be thankful because it made you stronger. The moon doesn't shine without darkness, and rainbows only appear after rain. Also remember that God wouldn't give you a battle he didn't think that you could handle. Or you are so loved. Always remember that, and it's okay to be sad, but don't stay there too long. Remember all the great things in your life. There are so many, but I can name a few. First off, your beautiful wife. Second, because me, because I'm amazing, as well as your daughters and your son. I love you forever. And she signs her name. So I believe that this, in closing, Dennis, can actually hit home for a lot of people who are depressed. You're not alone. And there's so much wisdom in this that I would like people to re-listen to it, because I do ever so often
Mhm.
when life hits me the way it hits a lot of people.
Mhm. Well, Robert, thank you for sharing those quite heartwarming messages. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to those words of wisdoms that you have shared to us. But finally, before we wrap this up, I just want to hear from you, Robert. What do you think you would be doing if you didn't become the president and CEO of Cymcorp? In another time, in another space, what do you think you would have been?
You know what? I would have liked to be a pilot. I am a pilot. Actually, I'm a private pilot, but I would have liked to be an airline pilot. But as life would have it, when I did all my studies and I went for my eye examination, I have color deficiency. I'm colorblind. And in those days, well, if you're colorblind, you can't fly plane, which is total hogwash. But it has been a passion for me. And if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, because at one point in my life, I did a lot of things, different things. I asked myself, what makes you happy? And then what makes me happy, Dennis, is when I contribute to somebody else's happiness, whether it be, organizing a Christmas party, or, anything that can make others happy, or doing, animal therapy in a hospital. Or today, what we do now is to give a true quality of life of people. So, but if that wasn't the case, I'd be an airline pilot.
Absolutely. And finally, Robert, the floor is all yours. Tell us what else is in the pipeline. And if people wanted to reach out to you, remind us again what platforms can they get in touch with you at?
Okay, I wasn't ready for this one, but we're not. We discussed today on mental health. Okay, and but I want people to understand that the podcast had nothing to do with just one specific condition or a sphere of activity. We're talking about taking care of you, the listener, right now. We care for you. We want to help you out. Now, it can be done psychologically, but all in all, there is always going to be the physical aspect that can help you out. If you're strong enough to be able to take care of yourself mentally, then the battle is much easier. So, in closing, I would say we have a company and a very strict line of product that answers, intracellular health, which will take care of your whole organism and put you in a state of well-being. That's what we do, and that's what our passion is about. We're not going to be selling a whole bunch of products. What we want to do is to help people to understand that most of you don't need pharmaceutical products. You can take care of yourself holistically. And why I say this is not to bash the pharmaceutical industry. If we could work together, it would be fantastic. But for some reason, there is a disconnect and we have to be at war with one another, which is a big mistake. Because remember, pharmacology exists for a past 105 years, 106 years, and I don't know exactly. Prior to pharmacology, we used to take care of people holistically, naturally, in the right environment. If you go, Dennis, and this goes far, to Africa, they can heal disease with tam-tams, with music. You go to India, they can heal disease with meditation. If you take a pharmaceutical product, 30% of that pharmaceutical product is actually placebo, and it will work. So the mind is very powerful if you tell people. So we could go in other discussions with our platform, which is goodsolidhealth.com, or sorry, Cymcorp. Cymcorp. Sim in French is the summit, where you reap the fruit of your labor, and the word corporation, corp. So CYM, Cymcorp.com, or we have one worldwide 1-888-968-3592 is our toll-free number if you want to reach us. If you have any question, you can also email it to me at r.gauthier@cymcorp.ca. So, in closing, this is how you can reach us, Dennis.
Well, thank you for sharing us ways and how everyone could get in touch with you. So I'll put them on the description notes. So for anyone who wants to reach out to you, they can do so. Well, Robert Gauthier, thank you for sharing to me your wisdom, your expertise, and also your insights. It's a pleasure having you here on the DRH show, but unfortunately, time is against us. I look forward to hearing more about your work.
All right. Thank you, Dennis.